Welcome to the reveal of my contribution into the Porsche group build, hosted by Chuck's Hobby Spot, BG's Model Workshop, the Lucas C channel, Blue Ox Model Shop, and oh yeah, that podcast thing. If you've been following this build, I've turned this Revell Porsche 914/6 into a wild wheel stander. Last time the build was in primer, with paint and detailing needing to be done. It needed a name first, so I started looking up Porsche nicknames. The first one I came across was the Widowmaker, for the 930 turbo's power and curve and questionable handling. That one was cool, but one of the most radical Porsche race cars was the 935/78 intended for Le Mans. With its extended bodywork and massive whale tail, it earned the nickname Moby Dick, after the whale in Herman Melville's epic novel. I thought that name would also be appropriate for a 914 with a massive Pro Mod style Hemi stuffed in the back. A few parts still needed to be printed, and these very nice Wilwood brakes were added to the front. Similar brakes would also be added to the rear. Then the engine cover needed to be addressed. I found it still fit alongside the Hemi, but the molded-in screen needed to go. I scratch-built the structure underneath. Keep watching, you'll see it again. Now it was time to plan the paint scheme. Tape was used to create templates that would be scanned into the computer to start that process. The sponsor and color scheme would follow the original Moby Dick racer, but I had a vision of some 70s style lettering in the shape of a whale. The final graphics were ganged up and printed on my Epson ET2760 EcoTank printer. They were then sealed with Tamiya TS13 clear. Then it was time to get the body in final white primer and begin the painting process. The Targa C-pillar was reshaped and all of the chrome trim was replaced with evergreen strip to be foiled later. The roll bar is painted Tamiya TS36 fluorescent red, with a light coat of TS74 clear red to tone that down a bit. Painting the custom size Fuchs wheels was next. I studied the wheels on this local Singer and liked the soft silver finish. The multi-piece designs of these wheels made the painting process a snap. A custom blended silver was applied with alclad paints. The tires were then painted with Tamiya TS82 rubber black. After getting the engine painted with various alclad paints, it was time for a toast. I couldn't resist applying the decal to the scoop to see how that would look. I hit the interior next. Several aluminum panels were cut from vintage litho printing plates I've had for years. These were detailed with photo-etched bolt heads. A shifter and a throttle lever were also added. Instead of a window in the floor, this one got a bit of tech, with a screen that would show the track via an underneath camera when it was doing wheel stander things. The dual brake pedals for left and right braking are also in place. The driver got detailed next. I went with the Stig style, but added a Tim Custom Models logo just in case you wondered who was driving. A photo etch harness from Edwards was sized to fit the figure. The frame has now been painted Tamiya TS54 light metallic blue. The body was painted Tamiya TS45 pearl white. Then the decals were applied and were sealed with Splash 2K clear. Once cured, the whole car was carefully masked to airbrush the black trim with Tamiya XF1, followed with a light coat of X22 clear just to make it a bit scratch resistant.
And this right here, you know where that's heading. Burn pile.
The areas of the rear bumper that conceal all the lead weight got covers, also made from the litho plate aluminum. These pieces are held in place with what I call cell phone tape. It is very thin, strong, double-sided tape. It allows a little bit of fudge without any mess of a vicious type glue. The detailing of the engine continued, with ignition, fuel, and oil lines added. It also has a pretty neat surprise.
Those that have been following know that it has a 3D printed engine, and it's weighted. You can hear the BBs rattling around in it. And I kind of want to talk about the 3D printing stuff and whatnot. First thing is, a lot of people have asked about the scoop, because the normal scoop goes this way, like this one, because the engine goes this way. And the wheel standard, the engine's going to go this way. So how was that handled? I have to say, I have to thank my friend Russ Murray, who is skilled in the 3D design stuff. And he took this one and turned it around so it faced the right way, instead of me having to, you know, cut blowers apart and whatnot to make it fit. And in the meantime, he also made separate pieces for the butterflies, because I kind of wanted to do something special with that. So that was super cool. The good thing about 3D printing stuff, and when you print it yourself, I can make as many of these as I need. So basically I printed 4 of them. I have this one that was the mock-up, and then I had the one that I would use for the final car, and then 2 sets of spares just in case I lost something, which, you know, we're model builders. That's what happens. So we'll just set that one over here. And before we put it in, here is the final engine, all painted up. Got some details. We've added the fuel lines, we've added ignition wires, we've added more fuel lines that are way down in here. This is a pretty detailed little engine. The color scheme fits the scheme of the car. This is again a custom decal like everything else. And the separate butterflies allow me to make decals that say clearly AHOY, which when you hit the throttle on this thing, you probably just say AHOY. And there you have them. 2 identical engines, 1 detailed, 1 painted.
The separate butterflies not only aided in painting, they were designed to be functional. This was a pie-in-the-sky detail, and in the end, they are just posable, as glue wouldn't hold all 4 to the common pivot rod. It's still all good because I can move them all open when it's doing a wheelie, or close them when it's resting on all 4 wheels. It was now time to detail the chassis. The rear axle was painted with Revell chrome and brake lines were fabricated. I decided on something unique underneath, so a sea monster was created and applied to the floor pan.
So a little insight into how the chassis will go together. So I have the frame, and then I have the monster paper, and it goes on the mounting pins for the chassis. Then I have litho plate that's been cut. I like the flat side better. It just looks cleaner. And it has been cut to fit right there. Have another piece. And the whole floor was going to be litho plate beforehand, but I changed my mind when I came up with the idea of the sea monster. And then that piece will go there. And then I have this little piece is gonna go back here because you just barely see that. So then I have the floor pan that's been hacked and whacked to fit, wheel stander things. And it goes on the pins to basically sandwich all of this together. So then it really doesn't need any glue. It all kind of just sets together. And then I have my interior piece, the driver. He's gonna just go in like that. And then the body will go on, and I will glue it on the edge. You can kind of see where it's been marked up That's kind of where the glue mark will be to glue the body onto the rocker panels. And then this will be one solid unit. And then we gotta figure out how to weasel the engine and all kinds of other little doodads that will be back in that area, because it has bars that it's kind of a big puzzle piece to get all the stuff back in here, which will be fun. So let's keep on gluing. One of the challenges on finishing this model is actually getting the engine in. And so as we can see, it kind of just fits like that. Easy peasy. The issue is the body will not go on with the engine in due to it has to hook up under here, and then it cantilevers back. The engine won't clear. So I have to put the body on next to install the engine. And once the engine is installed, that goes away. From the department of things you will never see is this little piece here, this assembly. This is actually where the engine cover goes, or where the engine in the car actually sits in the real car that doesn't have a Hemi. It has a little transmission cooler that will hook up to the transmission, a puke tank for the PCV system, and then a little 3D printed Optima battery, complete with little decals and stuff that I added on it. And so basically where this goes is right kind of around there somewhere, boop, right in front of the engine. And so when you get everything here, or everything assembled, and my hands aren't in the way, that piece fits way back in there. And why I say you'll never see any of this, because it actually has the engine cover, which you probably might have seen the foil Porsche letters that I got from Zoom On. Those are actually on a screen, and you can kind of see back behind there that it actually has the screen like on the real car. And I scratch built all of the under structure. You won't ever see any of that either, because it's just going to sit on there. But if you really look through the screen, you're going to see a little battery, puke tank, and the tranny cooler, which is all pretty neat. And oh yeah, it has like the puke lines that will hook up to the little breathers on the valve covers. All of this kind of goes together, ship in a bottle style. Wish me luck. So here we go. We have gotten the body officially mounted. This is all one piece. Rear axle's in. Kind of set the front suspension together just to make sure everything kind of lines up still, which it does. It will have posable steering, which we'll demonstrate once we get the wheels on it. But right now, I'm gonna like fill all of this up, and that's gonna be fun because, as you know, it involves that, and then this. And all of these have to go in at the same time and get wires connected and all that kind of stuff. So that's gonna be pretty fun. So let's head towards that.
The dashboard is one of the last parts to go on. It is mostly the kit part, but I added a lithoplate aluminum trim piece with some decal stripes. The gauges are based on the factory design, but I use modern Autometer photo-reduced faces with photo-etched bezels. The stock steering wheel has a center medallion made from more photo-etched doodads. While the model was nearing completion, I discovered more weight was needed for it to balance properly. This would get covered with another piece of aluminum from the lithoplate. So here it is, Moby Dick, the Hemi-powered Porsche 914 wheel stander. Every model always throws a few curveballs towards the final assembly, and this one was no different. That's what makes the hobby a fun challenge, and I'm pleased with how this one came out. The engine was a super tight fit, but I managed to get it all crammed in there. I think the sea monster on the bottom adds a nice little surprise underneath. But the coolest thing about this model is that it can do wheelies. In order for it to do this, it needed a lot of weight added, and concealing it was quite the challenge. This model wound up weighing 185 grams. That's heavier than a quarter pounder with cheese, with a side of fries. By comparison, my tractor from last year's group build is a lightweight at only 66 grams. And if it would fit in an envelope, I could mail it with a first-class stamp. I'll raise my glass to another successful Porsche group build. My wheels are already spinning about what to do for the next one. First, I don't really think I'm done with this one. Something is bothering me about something, and I might just have to do something about that. You'll have to come to the Acme Southern Nats to see what might happen next. In the meantime, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. You know what to do, because I have all kinds of model car stories to tell. Thanks for watching.